of reality.
Saad in Pakistan.
You're talking to Eric and Jamie. How's it going?
Hi, Eric and Jamie. How are you?
Hey.
Marvelous.
Doing good. I want to know a little bit more about the reality that we're in. Maybe you can help us out. What would you like to talk about?
Well, first of all, I was recommended to this show by a friend of mine. The thing is that I have a lot of friends who are atheists. I was actually rooming, I lived with a person who was a atheist for 1 year in college. And
Julio?
interesting, at the time myself, I'm a Muslim, so I was learning I wasn't practicing a lot, but I was learning the Quran and everything. So, in my opinion, in my life experience, I've always felt like there is a God. You know, it's hard to test these things in a test tube or a science lab or any of those things. A lot of people would tell you that it's blind faith. You know, I partially agree to it.
If everything was created by a divine creator, right, you would expect to have mountains of irrefutable evidence. Otherwise, that God doesn't want you to know about them or doesn't exist. And it's far more likely that God doesn't exist than stacking on attributes, right? What evidence do you have about God's existence?
Well, in my opinion, honestly speaking, it's the Quran.
Okay, why should I care about the Quran?
Well, you know, you'll be speaking to a lot of Christians here, and believe me, if I get into a debate with Christian people, I out of their original sin doctrines and a whole bunch of stuff about, you know, how there's one God and three persons. All those things we don't even believe in.
Yeah, the Trinity is silly.
We don't, and first of all, Quran pretty much gets straight to the point that there's only one God, and that's it. That He didn't have a son, or he was never born of anyone else either.
Okay. So why do you think that's true? And mind you, did you hear the part where I was talking about the Book of Eric earlier? Because I feel like this might come up.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to make that comparison if I need to.
I could make a book about myself and say I'm God too.
Exactly.
But then what? And then how am I God?
Exactly.
We can't do anything.
Exactly.
So
that's the point. It is just as useless until you actually can give evidence.
Yeah.
I'm doing it sarcastically, trying to prove a point that a lot of these arguments that get brought up about the existence of a God are just as nebulous as any other unproven, unsupported assertion. And so I'm using that as a shortcut to try and go, if that's true, then this is true, and this is obviously not true. So, moving from there. Does that make sense?
Well, it does. Let me ask you something. Have you read the Quran ever? Do you know the history of how it was compiled and how it was written and everything?
Not expertly.
No, and I don't care. Really, I can open a math book and not have to know the history of mathematics to understand and test whether or not math checks out. I really don't care. Tell me why it's true, or how to determine it's true.
Well, it was revealed to a prophet.
Don't care. Tell me how it's true.
You're good. You guys are good.
No, no. I'm honest. The thing is we've gone off into the weeds a couple times.
Yeah.
We're toward the end of the show. I have 2 more callers after you, and so I don't want to beat around the bush.
Eric is being very time sensitive. I hope that you don't interpret that as anger or impatience.
No. Well, I'm impatient, but it's not because of you. It's not anger at you. It's possibly anger at different ideas.
We are very glad you called. We do not get enough calls from Muslims, and therefore haven't done enough research. Well, yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Thank you for calling.
Either it's true or not true.
Yeah.
Right. So you said that there's a prophet. You said that there's one God. I said that I'm God and that orcs made it to Azeroth. By the way, there was somebody in the live chat who said that orcs are tortured elves. That's in Lord of the Ring. That is not in World of Warcraft. Know your lore. So Saad, I don't care. Show me that it's true, and then I'll care, and then we can go into the details. How do you know it's true?
Well, let me tell you this much. There were a lot of scientific facts in the Quran itself that people never knew about 1,400 years ago.
Yeah, like what?
So, in fact, the Big Bang Theory, embryology, all of those things are...
Give me one example. Give me one example, and we'll move forward. Give me your best, because we don't have a lot of time.
Well, basically, I don't exactly remember the verses, but Google's your best friend. there's a certain part in the Quran that actually explains how, you know, the Big Bang happened and how the world was created.
Really?
In fact, the whole process of embryology is even explained in the more Quranic style.
Is it hidden? Are people reading things into it, or are you saying
he's saying in the
that there
Quranic
is
style.
scientific language that actually breaks down science the way we understand it, and we just didn't do anything about it for a couple thousand years till we figured it out otherwise?
There's a lot of scholarly texts that talk about all the scientific evidence in the Quran.
Oh, why do you need scholarly text? Read the Quran. Doesn't it say it, or do you have to interpret it?
It's the way the Quran is designed, honestly speaking, some things are very self-explanatory, some things you need to kind of interpret it because, you know, so that's the beauty of the book itself.
That sounds like a shitty book. Why is it beautiful if it's not direct?
Well, you know, I'll be honest with you, you know, we humans have been, especially in Islam, well, you know, in Christianity calls everyone a born sinner, right? In fact, Islam says that the humans are the best of all creation. So if you're the best of all creation, we're smart. You really don't think we can understand these things? I mean, come on, we've gone to school, we've gone to college for all these years.
There are things that we still don't understand. Is that something that human beings still do not understand about the universe in which we live? I think that you and I think that the three of us can agree about that, presumably. Right?
Yeah, I'll tell you something. If you're saying, you know, there's a lot of unresolved mysteries of the universe, and like you, I want to know it too.
I think that's great. So here is where I would go with this. You have said that the Quran should be accepted as true because there are scientific facts in it. If I get a well-written science textbook, it has scientific facts in it. And some of those would lead me to believe that prophets being inspired is not a reasonable or realistic belief. Why should I believe this particular book with scientific facts as opposed to a different book with scientific facts?
Do you really think 1,400 years ago people were thinking about these things? Where else could that knowledge come from?
It can come from people who are reading their own conclusions into it. That's where.
Well, that's just your opinion, right?
No, it's not, Saad. It's just my opinion. Either it's true or not true, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't that matter?
Exactly.
Exactly. Okay, so next time when you call in, get a verse from the Quran. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a middle school down the street in Texas, and I'm going to copy a couple pages from a science textbook into the Book of Eric, and then I'm going to hold it up against your verse from the Quran and find out which one is clear and direct, because either people are reading things into it, or we take all the stuff that you're saying is true and that God is there and that God is just a poor communicator or doesn't want people to know or is hiding things in riddles or whatever. Either way, that doesn't say a whole lot about your God being very, good at communicating.
Yeah.
Or maybe we're not that smart.
I think we're smart enough to determine when a book has been created by a culture and we're trying to retrofit it into a time.
Yeah, into our current understanding of the universe. So I would say two things. One, I think we can have a little bit more time on this call. We're running short on time. I would like, as Eric referenced, for you to call back in. And again, I feel like I'm a broken record. The Reddit r/talk Heathen is great because for something like the details of what's in the Quran, having those discussions online allows people to reference and look at the specific scholarly articles that you're talking about, which is something that we are going to have difficulty doing on the show. So even if you don't make it to the Reddit, hopefully you can call back in. But my last sort of question would be, do you believe that the Quran is perfect?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that I understand about the Quran and the fact that it's written in Quranic Arabic, and that is sort of the basis for Arabic dialects the world over, one of the things I understand is that the grammar used is inconsistent. So if there were a perfect book, and if there were a book that you were looking at and someone said, this is written perfectly, and then when you were looking through that book, you found grammar errors, would that make you more or less likely to believe that that book was perfect?
Are you talking about the translation, or are you talking about the actual Arabic?
The actual Arabic. So in the hypothetical, I shouldn't have brought up the Quran. In a hypothetical, I bring you a book and we'll say it's in English. And I say, this book is written perfectly. And you open it and you go, there's a grammar error right here. And I swear loudly and then call my publisher. Would you be more or less likely to believe the claim that that book that had a grammar error was perfect?
Well, maybe not in this case. Yeah.
Yeah. So if the same thing were shown to be true, if maybe it is, maybe it isn't at this point. If the same thing were shown to be true about the Quran, would that cause you to think about the statement that the Quran is perfect and the perfect word of God?
I don't know about the grammar aspect of it, because I myself can read Arabic, but I can't really understand it. I also read the translation, because in Pakistan, the Urdu language is very similar to the Arabic language. And however, this uses the same script as well. But, if you ask any Pakistani in Texas, they'll probably tell you that they can't speak Arabic for the life of them, but they can understand, they can just recite it, like they can read it, but they can't speak So the way ever since I was young, I was growing up, we were supposed to learn it for the 5 times prayers and everything. So, and I've never encountered any such grammatical errors, and I'm the kind of guy who grew up literally questioning a whole bunch of things about Islam too. I grew up literally questioning people who thought they knew this stuff, but they didn't. I would ask them stupid questions. Excuse me. I would ask them questions like, there's certain Muslims who believe that pornography and music is not allowed in Islam, and I myself was a huge music fan growing up, still am. My favorite band is Def Leppard, by the way. So see, Muslims are cool too, by the way. Just letting you know.
No. I know.
I would have a beer with you.
I not only I don't know whether he thinks
you can have hookah with me. You can have hookah.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably he still considers alcohol to be.
I would have a beer near you.
Yeah.
You can have alcohol with me.
There we go. Sit back, listen to music, and we can argue about whether or not your Bible, your holy book is true.
What I will say is, just as a quick aside, because Eric is going to cut me off as I get into this last part, the Reddit and callback. What I will say is, one, I can't blame you for not learning Arabic. Holy fuck! No regular verbs? Are you kidding me? Fuck. So sorry. So yeah, it's not an easy language to learn. I understand that. But what I'm saying is, given that you believe that the Quran is the perfect word of God, presumably you believe there are no grammatical errors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Presumably.
So that would be a sort of good thing for us to look at. There was something else I was going to say. I was going to ask the side question. Wait, what language are you referring to that uses the same script as Arabic?
Urdu.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know that. You learn something new every day.
Yeah, Urdu, Persian. I think Urdu. Here's some trivia for you. Urdu is a mixture of Arabic and Persian and a whole bunch of other languages.
Okay. I thought that Farsi used a different script.
In Urdu. In fact, the word namaz, which means prayer, the salah prayer, that Arabs say as salah, namaz is actually a Persian word. Roza, which means fasting, is a Persian word.
Okay. If I ask another question about language, Eric might stab me in the eye. But this is awesome. I don't think Eric's going to let me get away with asking you these questions next week on the show.
Our producer has trained us, and we are already. Over time, we want to get to the next two callers, and so I am fearing the lash right now. It is not Jamie's fault. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Things usually are my fault, so you can't be blamed for jumping to that conclusion. What I will say is, I hope that you call back next week, and please, even if you don't want to have discussions on the Reddit, email us because I have more questions.
Yeah, I should have brought Quranic evidence. Honestly speaking, that was that should have been something I did, but I probably overlooked it because I wasn't aware of what kind of questions you'll be asking me.
Yeah, and you know what? I can't blame you for not bringing citations.
Yeah, and I can't really say it myself. Oh, this is the verse, or this is the verse, because I'd be misquoting a religious book. You know. Also, like I said, I've questioned a lot of things about a lot of so-called scholars to mention about, oh, this isn't allowed, this is not haram, this is haram. I would be totally anti-haram police in back home. I mean, in Pakistan.
Good
So
for you.
I learned a lot of things. In fact, I learned a lot of things that music and pornography are actually all right. I learned like through professor of Islamic studies back in what we call O levels, is what 11th grade is in America. So he taught me those things, and I was like, in fact, he told me that, you really think I'm a fan of Aerosmith and Metallica? I was like, you kidding me? Because you'd never expect a religious person, a pious man, to listen to music like this, you know?
So our producer is in our ear now a little bit.
And I actually have one thing really quickly for you, and that is when I was a believer, it was brought to my attention that if you look at the can of Monster energy drink, that the claw marks of the monster, each individual claw mark looks like the Hebrew. Creates a 666, which is the sign of the devil, and therefore it is a veiled, satanic message. And that if you're smart enough, you can get to understand.
And their motto is "Unleash the Beast."
Yeah, they're Unleash the Beast. Do you think that sounds remotely plausible, or do you think that sounds silly?
It's a whole bunch of BS. It's like those people who saying that you can reverse songs, and like California talked about Satan.
And it's exactly how I feel when I hear people talk about what is haram.
Yeah. Well, it's exactly how I feel when people say, "Ooh, I've found scientific evidence in the Quran."
In the Quran, yeah.
In the same way that they find satanic evidence on the can of Monster
energy drink.
But we're moving absolutely on the wire.
Take care, man.
Please, at the very, very least, call back next week. You can email us at mail@talkheathen.com or find us on Reddit at reddit/r/talkheathen.
Yep. Take care, buddy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Peace.
Finally, just want to say one thing to you guys. You know, I myself am a seeker of knowledge, just like you guys.
Beautiful.
I really want to get to respect you guys. I didn't take any offense to whatever you guys said.
I appreciate you.
That's what I've been raised to believe too. I've talked to a whole bunch of people. I've lived with an atheist person, so I know how it is. So I know all the arguments that you guys were going to bring to the table. But it's fun, honestly. You know, you guys do a good job. So
thank you, brother. I really appreciate that. All right, we do got to go. All right, bye.
Bye. Thank you.